Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to begin the chesped portion, the service, for Mr. Edward David Friedman. Rabbi Eichenstein will be speaking.
How befitting it is to have the hesped in the Levaya, in the Besmedish, as Reb Eddie felt the shul, and every shul was his second home, maybe his first sometimes. He always felt comfortable and happy to come into the Besmedish, Bebeis Alekim Nahalach Berugash, whether it was for the Daf Yomi Shir that he came for so many years, all the time, with such a smile when he walked into the Shir, whether it was for the Shalashudis that he would come, even if it would be only for a couple minutes, but he had to chaperein this special time of Shalashudis, or any time throughout the year that he would come by the shul, he felt at home at shul. As my father, the Rebbe Zolzang Gesinten Stark, always mentions how important it is and how special it is, and what a level of being a Yid is to be a shul Yid, to be a Yid who feels at home coming into shul, and he feels that the shul is his home. Reb Eddie, Rabbi Yitzchak David, was such a Yid. In Pirkei Avos, we are told the Maila of Lev Tov rises above many special other Mailas. Reb Eddie was a true Lev Tov. The smile, the simcha, when he saw another Yid, when he engaged in another Yid, was contagious. Whoever was next to him was as well smiling. And that was till the last minute. To the last minute. As I had the zechia to be with him in the hospital for a couple times, in his last hours, he was singing songs of Shabbos, singing songs of Emunah, singing songs of Simcha. And this captures his whole life. It was Shabbos, it was Emunah, and it was Simcha. There's a story told over of a Yid that lived in Eretz Yisrael that was part of the education system. And one day he bumped into a friend of his that was a doctor, holding his talis and tefillin, running to shul. And he asked his friend, "I didn't know that you're so religious." To which his friend answered, "I'm a pushete Yid." When the first one heard this comment, it hit him like a thunderbolt. And he said, "This reminds me of my father, who the last 2 years of his life had Alzheimer's and was not able to remember, think of, and discuss anything besides one thing he said over all the time. And that was one story that happened to him when he was in the camps. A Nazi one day came over to him with a rifle and said, 'Who do you think you are, you filthy Jew?' And he was about to shoot him. That moment, he looked back at his whole life, this Yid, and he didn't know what to answer. To which he told the Nazi, Yamach Shemam, 'Ich bin a pushete Yid.' That's what I am." The Nazi heard that, put down the rifle and went away. The koyach of a pushete Yid, of being a Yid kipshitai, is what makes Klal Yisrael survive. He didn't remember anything else besides this Lushan, and that's what he said over for 2 years. Ich bin a pushete Yid. Reb Eddie wasn't such a pushete Yid. He went through a lot and he was rising always to the occasion, whenever it was, whatever it was, to keep his simcha, to keep coming back to the Besmedish, to his Yidden that he felt so close to, and all those that he was so devoted. The devotion that he had to his daughter, that wasn't so easy always, and he always went above and beyond what he could have gotten away with much less. The Pnei Menachem once said, on such children that sometimes need a lot more than others, Taf lumehem buem. Why do such children come to the world? Litn schar lemeviyayem, to give schar to those who brought them down on this world, and go through the challenge which having them, which Reb Eddie did in such an unbelievable way. The devotion that he had to all of his family members, to the whole community, to each and every kehillah that he was part of, that he felt so warm to. As the last niggin we sang with Reb Eddie before we parted was the niggin of Ani Mamin, V'emunah Shleima B'vias HaMashiach. There's no better words to say he lived with emunah, he lived with the warmth of Shabbos, he lived with the warmth of a Yid, he lived with the warmth of a Blat Gemudah, that he came into this Besmedish so many times. All of these chusim should be melavehim, that im Yetz Hashem he should be zoiche to be a Meilit Yoshe for the whole Kehillah, for the Mishpocha, for Gans Klal Yisrael, as being such a Leiv Tov that is connected to each and every Yid. All of these Blate Gemurah, all of these Shabbusim, all of these good words that he said and that were said to him should go together with him to the Kisa HaKoved, till we should be Zoiche B'Kurev Im Yetz Hashem to the Bias Mashiach Tzidkayni V'lo Yeshuma Oid Shoid V'Shever, till we'll be Zoiche to the Gula Shleima V'Mheira V'Yamayni. Amen.
Thank you, Rabbi. At this time, we're going to go to the New Light Cemetery. We'll meet there. The service will begin at 10 a.m. For those of you that are here, Michael, his brother, who's in Arizona, would just like to be able to see who's here, though we're not offering words of consolation until after the burial. But if you just want to walk by, as you follow the hearse, as you walk behind the hearse, excuse me, when we leave, just walk in front of the camera. Thank you.
Turn it off, right? You pause it? Just turn the video and sound off.
Just stop the video?
No, not here.
No, this? This I can stop.
This side.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time we're going to begin the interment portion, the service of Mr. Edward David Friedman. And as the pallbearers bring his casket out, I invite those of you that are here to be sure your cell phones have been turned off, and please practice social distancing. Rabbi Ariel Shoshan will be officiating here at the graveside. We have over 50 screens watching the service at this moment. So for those of you who are online, we welcome you. We extend our condolences to you. Memorial contributions in his memory to the Chicago Mitzvah campaign would be appreciated. That information is online on our website, or for those of you who are here, it's on the service folder. And at this time, we invite the rabbi to begin the sacred funeral ceremony.
Ashrei ha'ish asher lo alach b'atzas u'shoyim v'derech chatim lo amad v'moshav leitzin lo yashav ki im besoras Adonai chefzo v'soraso yageh yomam v'layla v'haya ki'etz shasul apal gemayim asher perio yitem be'ito v'halei lo yibol v'chol asher yaseh yatzliach lo chen ha'rishayim ki im kamotz asher titvenu ruach al kein lo yakumu rishayim b'mishpat v'chatoim b'adas tzadikim ki yodei Adonai derech tzadikim v'derech rishayim toved. Happy is the one who has not followed the counsel of the wicked, nor stood in the path of sinners, nor sat in the company of the scornful. Rather, that one's delight is in the Torah of the Lord, meditating on Hashem's Torah day and night, and will be like a tree planted by streams of water that yields its fruit in season, whose leaf will not wither, and whatever that one does prospers. Not so the wicked, who are like chaff that the wind drives away. Therefore the wicked shall not survive judgment, nor sinners in the assembly of the righteous. For Hashem loves the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked is doomed. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai roi lo echsar, binosteh sheyar bitzeini al memenuchos yinahaleni. Nafshi yeshovev yamcheni b'magle tzedek leman shemo. Gam ki elech begeit salmovas lo irara ki ata imadi. Shivtecho mishantecha hema yinach amuni. Ta'aruch lefanai shulchan neged zorai. Dishanta b'Hashem en roshi kosi revaya. Ach tov v'chesed yudifuni kol yemei chayai v'shavti b'veis Adonai lo orach yomim. A song of David, Hashem is my shepherd, I shall not lack. Hashem causes me to lie down in lush pastures. God leads me beside tranquil waters. God restores my soul and guides me in the righteous paths for God's name's sake. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will feel no evil, for you are with me. Your scepter and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in full view of my adversaries. You have anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. May only goodness and kindness pursue me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord for the length of days. I can only imagine how many people would be here if the circumstances were different and if it was allowed to have many people together. If it were a warmer day, maybe that too would bring more people. The number of people who have been in touch with Michael over the last 48 hours is a small testimony to the immense love that is felt for Yitzchak David, for Uncle Eddie, who was a man much larger than his stature may have indicated at first glance. I call on Michael's daughter, Eddie's niece, Marla, to offer her words.
Off. All's coming off. Can you help me? Okay, we'll just do one for now. Okay. Sorry, it's not sticking. My hair. Okay, for those who don't know me, I'm Mike's youngest daughter, Marla Friedman Grossberg, Eddie's niece, as I already said. My comments reflect some of my dad's thoughts too. Hi, Dad. Wish you could be here. Hi, Rena. Thank you. Wish you could be here too. And everybody could be here, as I already said. Okay, you may be familiar with the phrase, good things come in small packages. This phrase certainly applies to my Uncle Eddie. He was many things. He was a family man. Nothing was more important to him than family, whether by blood, marriage, or circumstance. Everybody here today is family. He was a son. Edward David was born to Belle and Jack Friedman, who are right over here, and I can't tell you how happy that we all are that he's going to be laid to rest right in front of his parents. Dad, I don't know if you knew that, but he's right here. He was born on December 27, 1946, just 74 years ago this past Sunday. He was born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri, U City to be exact. Eddie was a true baby boomer. He was born right after my grandfather came home from serving in Japan in World War II. I won't tell you how many years older my dad was in that, because then you'd know how old he was. He was a generation that was raised with grandparents, one of whom was a great rabbi. He was a great son, a young man, and a hard worker. He was also a brother. He idolized his big brother, and he often spoke of you, Dad, whether it was about the times growing up in St. Louis, his admiration of how hard you worked, or going to the car shows together, and so much more. You guys had a special, close relationship, and I know you'll miss him very much. You guys were able to enjoy a special relationship together, particularly over eating steak at Evita's. And I hope he'll visit you in your dreams soon so you guys can reminisce. He was a father. He loved Jenny fiercely. He was so incredibly proud of her. He supported her and enabled her to achieve so many accomplishments like swimming medals. He was a mother, father, and best friend to Jenny. He was so resourceful, finding any and every advantage that would make her life better. Jenny was sweet, kind, and loving, just like her dad. And he was an uncle. He was so proud of all of his nieces and nephews, and he frequently told us so. It was always a treat to get an "I love you, I'm so proud of you" email or Facebook message from him. I'm grateful for all of the digital correspondence, so I have a record of them. He was so good at that. And he always delighted in seeing us all, particularly on holiday get-togethers. He was an uncle to everyone, and he even asked his first doctor at Glenbrook to call him Uncle Ed. So I assume he asked the same of everyone. And he was a friend, as evidenced by the number of people reaching out to my dad and that he was cared for by so many. It's clear he was a great friend. He was a great pen pal, keeping in touch with his St. Louis friends from childhood and creating new relationships everywhere. I would be remiss not to thank the Blumenkrantz families, Turetsky's, and Eichenstein families for embracing Eddie as one of their own and always looking out for him. My dad, Rena, his sister, and I are forever grateful for your help, particularly for these past few weeks. Eddie was our family historian. We would randomly receive these beautifully written stories of our ancestors about family farms in Michigan that we never knew about, photos of rabbis from the 1800s in our family, and stories of my grandfather, Jack, coming home and about his time in World War II and also as a boxer. He knew so much about everyone, and he had the accompanying artifacts. When retrieving his tallis for today, my sister found our grandmother's Social Security card with her maiden name on it. And he even put together a shadow box of a flag that draped my grandfather's coffin and his medals that he earned from the war. It's so beautiful. I didn't know about these stories. I didn't even know my grandfather had these medals, and so Eddie filled me in recently. His gift of genealogy contributed to a book of the Friedman line that goes back to the 1700s and led us to relatives in Memphis where there was a reunion about 13 years ago. In fact, his research uncovered a sixth cousin that introduced himself to my son on a soccer field one day when they were volunteering for soccer buddies. He actually lives in Highland Park. It's incredible. On one of our most recent times, I asked Eddie if he would work his magic on his mom's side of the family, the Perlman Gerber side. And he said the work's already been done. All we had to do was just put it together. I was looking forward to doing that work with him in the upcoming months. But now, my sister and I will do that together with help of our dad, and we'll enter that into Ancestry.com. It's such a gift that he's given us. He's discovered and recorded our family's heritage. And Eddie was social. I think you guys would agree. He loved being around people. As a kid, he played Curry Little League Baseball, and he played on the high school football team. In fact, he just mentioned this to Dr. Kleinman. He was involved heavily in student activities, and he ran for school president, and he was on the front page of the school newspaper often. This past year has been hard for him because the social activities have been taken away. And I remember he was lamenting around the holidays that they were hard for him because there was no shul to attend. If he were here today, he'd be shocked by the outpouring of support. Can you just hear him say, wow, in that Eddie chuckle? He'd be in such disbelief. Yet he'd love seeing everyone here, and his heart would be bursting. I know my dad, Rena, his sister, and all of our families, the Shoshans and everybody, would be truly touched. We are truly touched and astounded by the love and show of respect for Uncle Eddie and the impact that he's had on so many people. It's a beautiful tribute, and it will comfort us in the days ahead. He's endearing, caring, thoughtful, and loving. He had such a big heart. There was room for everyone. He was never angry. He never judged. He just saw the best in people. Whenever we were together, we would shop for groceries, and he made a point to buy snacks for the little ones who would come to visit him on Shabbos, and it had to be the special brand. He always wanted to make people happy, as that brought him joy. And on Fridays, he sent us these little gifts, or GIFs, however you pronounce it, that said Shabbat Shalom, and they were always these sparkly, colorful ones, and I have no idea where he found them. They were always different, but they always made me smile. I was always thinking of others. And recently, when my mom was in the hospital for non-COVID reasons, but she was ill, he actually reached out to her, even though they haven't spoken in 30 plus years. He was smart and witty. He graduated college in '68 from Wash U, pretty much paying his own way. He wanted to be a teacher, which was a pretty popular goal at the time. A year after his marriage, he started law school at night and passed the bar exam on his first try in Illinois and later on in Florida on his first try again. He opened a small practice with a friend in Fort Myers and later became a sole practitioner. He became moderately successful and occasionally getting some press and acquiring some commercial property. And then my daughter Emily sent me a screenshot of a message once just to, as an example of his wit. A couple years ago about a big snowstorm, and his comment was, "Send beans." He was brave. Some of you may know he was diagnosed with myelofibrosis about 10 years ago, a blood cancer where the blood cells don't form properly in the bone marrow. Apologies to Dr. Kleinman if you're listening for simplifying it. He explains it much better. But Eddie endured treatments from bone marrow biopsies to regular treatment at doctor's visits all on his own for many years. He never spoke of it and he never complained. We didn't really even know the severity of it until I joined the Friedman Cancer Club. But just so you know, it's exclusive. Membership's closed. Once we connected the dots, I started going with him to appointments. We bonded over treatments and what it felt like to carry the burden of managing cancer. While he was supported by many on this journey, only the patient can do the lonely, hard work of treatment. And we got each other that way. It was a blessing for both of us because unless you've been through it, you just don't get it. So we had our own little support group of two. There's a lot of rabbis in Eddie's life, but the newest one was something called Reb Roisel. And so we just made this joke. It was a new Rebbe for him. This one was special. It was helping save his life. It's a new drug on the market that Dr. Kleinman found for him, and it was designed specifically for his cancer. He was concerned and scared about it, but he bravely agreed to take it, and it was a shot every 3 weeks. He started in the summer, and it was helping. His numbers were going in the right direction. Eddie, through his perseverance and Dr. Kleinman's superb care, had defied all the odds related to his disease. And with Reb Roisel on the team, myelofibrosis was no match for Eddie Friedman. Eddie was strong. His disease left him chronically fatigued, and other ailments like a torn rotator cuff and back problems made it hard for him to get around. Yet he valued being with all of you so much, he was present at many events, big or small, as he could, even traveling to New Jersey last year for a Shoshan wedding. We spoke about it, and ultimately he was confident he could make the trip, and he did. And he was glad that he did. His desire to be with family, fueled by his strength to be present at a moment that counted for him. Eddie was present in every moment. He focused on the people, and he just soaked it all in. He was a proud man. He never showed weakness, even until his last breaths. We spoke with him on Monday night, and he was still the same old Ed, talking about getting a truck and going home to open up the doors in his balcony. And he was fun. After the doctor's appointments, we'd also go out for lunch, and we'd visit a store, grocery or dollar, or my sister would take him to Costco. He loved Costco. He's such an adventurer. He loved looking at all the new items, and I asked my sister what the most unusual thing was that he ever bought, and she said a shredder. Paper, not cheese. Some of my places that I love to go with him include this BP gas station, which is just over the street there on Lincoln. It's the most fabulous lunch place. If you haven't gone, please try. I was just in disbelief. I'm like, you want to get a bagel at a gas station? Is it kosher? And I went, and it was just fantastic. And then we'd go to the dollar store on Dempster, and it was just so much fun. And we'd look at each other's carts and compare and pick up things that we missed from each other. And it was just so much fun. Wherever we went, it was fun. And he was a Judaic scholar. For his bar mitzvah, he led the entire Shabbos davening, including the Maftir and the Haftorah. And later in life, he devoted himself to learning Talmud. He loved it, and it gave him purpose after Jenny passed. In the spirit of dedication to Torah, I did a little Torah study myself in preparation for today with the help of my rabbi, Rabbi Alex Friedman. This week's parsha is Vayihi, the last book of Genesis. The word means he lived, and talks about when Jacob called his sons to his deathbed for a blessing before he passed away. I think this parsha is fitting to read on the Shabbos after Eddie's passing for several reasons. The name alone, Vayihi, he lived, describes Uncle Eddie. He lived such a rich, full life of love, family, friends, study, and memories. Jacob called his son to his side and blessed them. Each of them would go on to have their own tribe and prosper and leave a legacy. Uncle Eddie has brought several tribes together today, or different families, each of whom loved Eddie very much. Uncle Eddie blessed all of us in life, and now we're all brought together at his side in his death. His legacy will be our collective commitment to continue learning and leading by his example in his name. To lead with your heart, love fully, be present in your life, have adventures, and be strong. Finally, a loose but significant connection to me, at least, is that Eddie's father's name is Jacob, and Jacob is calling his son Eddie to his side today. Uncle Eddie used to start many of his notes to me with Marla hi or Marla dear. Uncle Eddie, hi. I wish we could have one more adventure together. Uncle Eddie dear, I love you and I miss you already. I hope your back feels better and that you and Jenny are having the best reunion ever. Over the past few days, I've read through the Facebook messages and emails and found so many precious ones. But I want to close with one that really hits home that he wrote to me exactly 1 year ago today. It reads, when you think of me, think happy thoughts and all the wonderful times we've had. I will, Uncle Eddie, I will. Thank you all.
I feel, in many ways, the least qualified person here to speak about Uncle Eddie. As many of you know, I live far away and was less active in his life than probably every single one of you. And as some of you may know, I'm the rabbi of a shul. I speak many times per week and usually know what to say. Now I stand here not really more than as a representative of the closest person to him, of his brother, my stepfather, Marla and Michelle's father, who is unable to be with us and is a great expression of the reality that when two people are together, it doesn't matter if there's distance, physical distance, but if their hearts are one heart, then they're together even over a long distance. And so much of what I want to share, I hope will be reflective of what Michael would be saying if he were standing here. But as all of you know, and we'll reflect a little bit more upon They had a most rewarding and connected brotherhood. The Medrash Tanchuma at the beginning of Parshas Noach says that when a person leaves this world without children, then a person goes up to Shemayim and says to Hashem, what did I leave in this world? And Hashem responds, do you think that the children that are born from you are that which you leave in this world? The main thing that a person leaves in this world is Maisim Tovim, good deeds. And Hashem, so to speak, reprimands the person who wonders, what did I leave in this world? Because even if a person will merit to have many, many children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, the primary thing that someone leaves in this world is the good deeds that they accomplish during the time that they're given in this world. And the Mishnah says in Pirkei Avos that a Keser Shem Tov is Ola al Kulam, the crown of a good name is the greatest crown. It rises above all the other crowns that a person can achieve. And everybody here knows that Eddie had the best of names. Wherever you go, if you could claim that you were related or connected to Eddie Friedman, people would smile. People would say, I love Eddie. He did this and did that. Just this morning I heard someone reflecting how much they enjoyed hearing Eddie's voice when the Weitzner Cheder had a phone tree that would go out and it was Ed's voice about some kind of cause for Bubba or something like that. And thinking of Eddie, as was so beautifully, eloquently described by Marla, brings a smile to every person's face. Because Ed Friedman had a Shem Tov. And his Shem Tov and his good deeds will endure forever. This morning when I was davening, I said the words that you all said, Elokei Avram, Elokei Yitzchak, Elokei Yaakov. Those words that we can say that we stand in front of Hashem as the descendants. We stand in front of Hashem, we identify Him as the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And I thought to myself that Hashem was crowned over this family. He is Elokei Avram on the mind of Michael, whose name is Avraham. And Hashem, in the proper way of living life, was crowned over Yitzchak, Uncle Eddie, Yitzchak David. And how was he crowned as Elokei Avram, the God of this family, the God of Michael and the God of Eddie, Avram and Yitzchak, because he was the Elokei Yaakov, the God of Yaakov, of their father, who Michael says so many times that his parents taught them Torah, even if they didn't identify it as Torah. That all of the things, all of the values of those beautiful peoples, of Jack and Belle, Zichronam Livracha, the lessons that were taught in St. Louis and in Chicago and in Florida, as mentioned, those lessons were always lessons in life of Torah, even if they weren't identified as such. And that true was also because Hashem is Elokei Avram, going back even further to Michael's namesake, Jack's father, Zichron Livracha, Zecher Tzadik Livracha. You know, every person wants to win at the game of life. So how do we describe winning at the game of life? It seems to me that a person who everyone else thinks of as a wonderful father is a winner at the game of life. Many of you knew Jenny, Zichrona Livracha, Shoshana Avigail. My most recent correspondence with Eddie was in his dedicating a yahrzeit plaque in our shul, thousands of miles away, and making sure we had the spelling properly and the date proper. As you mentioned, not just for Jenny, but for great-grandparents. So what would we all do to just be recorded as a good father or a good mother? Wouldn't that be enough to be considered a winner at the game of life? But Eddie was so much more. As Marla mentioned in Parshas Vayechi, Yaakov calls his sons together and he says, Hikavtzu v'shimu. Gather together, be one. Hikavtzu, become one group. And here, my sons. Up until now in the Chumash, we have brothers who don't always get along. We have one brother who will be the scion of his family in the form of Yitzchak and not Yishmael. And we have another in the form of Yaakov and not Esav. But now it's Yaakov's family where Yaakov can say, Hikavtzu, come together, all of you brothers. If I could speak forever, I would never be able to describe the achva, the brotherhood that was shared by Michael and Eddie. Wouldn't you be a winner at the game of life if you would just be a good brother? If you would have two brothers who were like one person. Michael said to me yesterday that they were like Yisachar and Zevulun. Now this reflects Michael's intense humility as well. But he described that, wasn't it true that one brother made a few dollars and the other one was learning? He was begging Eddie, even till the end, daven for me. And he saw and sees Eddie as his partner in life. He said repeatedly to me over the last couple of days, you know, people, when they lose family members, they wonder, are all the affairs in order? Did we get along? Did we fix the problems? There were no problems to fix. If you could be a brother about which your brother would say there's no problems to fix, wouldn't that be a winner at the game of life? Two brothers who came together to be one mission, no competition, no pain, just one shared vision, as they would both say. And Eddie would get a particular kick out of this. We're Friedmans, and we stick together. And it wasn't easy for Eddie to travel to Simchas. You can't get to Phoenix by train. But he came to our son's bar mitzvah by train to Flagstaff, and then, you know, you don't even want to ask Eddie, how did you get from Flagstaff to Phoenix? And again last year to the Simcha in New Jersey. And it wasn't the only kind of thing. He was always there. He was always there, whatever it took. Because we're Friedmans and we stick together. Brotherhood. As was mentioned, he was born on December 27th in 1946. That was just a few hours, one day after the last of the Hanukkah lights went out. Eddie was born in the cold of winter, in a time of difficulty in the world. And like Hanukkah, Eddie brought a light to the world that brought joy and laughter and smiling to so many people's faces. He was crowned with a good name. And my friends, I think if we could say about ourselves at the end of 120 years, or whatever it is that Hashem gives us, that I made other people happy, I was a good son, and I was a good father, and I was a good brother, and I was a good Jew. Because the preoccupation of a Jew is Torah, Avodah, and Gemilas Chasadim. Torah study and the service of Hashem, particularly through davening and acts of kindness. And about Eddie, it could be said that he was committed to his learning in the late night Daf Yomi Shir, where he would send long emails about what was learned on 29b4 and the different messages that he took in Torah and the commitment that he showed to shul, as Rabbi Eichenstein said, in the name of his father, Shlita, what it would be to be a shul yid, and the amount of chesed that Eddie showed in his care for others, and in particular, in the care that he showed for so many years and years to his daughter, Zichrona Livracha. There's no doubt that if a Jew can be crowned in a good name and a good son and a good brother and a good father and involved in Torah and Avodah and Gemilas Chasadim, that he's welcomed directly into the next world with open hands by the Ribono Shel Olam and all those who gather there to greet him. I want to close by thanking all of you, and those of you who are here, and frankly, I don't know many of you. I know that I can speak on behalf of Michael and on behalf of my mother and on behalf of Michelle and Marla and their families and on behalf of my brothers and sisters to tell you that we know what you meant to him and what you gave to him. Some of the names that were already mentioned, the Blumenkranzes and the Turetsky's and the Sambers, Perman family, and the many rabbis across the community. We know how much you did for him, the doctors and the staff at Glenbrook. But all of you who cared and carried Ed on Devon or on Pratt or wherever it was, we're deeply indebted to you, and I speak on behalf of my mother and I speak on behalf of Michael in thanking you. Thanking you for being his nieces and his nephews, his children and his grandchildren. Because he adored you and he appreciated you and we appreciate you. And when people come over to me and they say, as they did this morning, I'm so sorry for your loss, it's your loss. And we're sorry for you and your mourning over this beautiful, beautiful Jew, Yitzchak David, whose good name was reflected in your lives, and we deeply appreciate you and thank you.
Once the cemetery workers are done placing the vault cover on top of the vault, for those who are going to be shoveling, we ask that due to COVID, everybody's wearing gloves, either your gloves that you're wearing or there's plastic gloves available here. And also just not to congregate around the grave, we should try to social distance around. Come in here. You're gonna come right in here. Yeah.
just before the burial itself, which will be followed by Kelmele and Tziddik Hadin and Kaddish. We have the responsibility to ask forgiveness, to ask mechila from Yitzchak David. And so I represent the whole family saying, your name is Yitzchak David ben Yaakov. On behalf of your family, your brother Avram Moshe, and my mother, and your nieces and their families, and our whole family, and on behalf of the whole community, and the Chevra Kadisha, there were times that we weren't mechabed you properly, that we didn't give you the proper honor, that we either did wrong by you, or we just didn't do enough right and value you the way you deserved. And we ask Mechila that you should go b'shalom, and we b'shalom in our relationship with you, and that you forgive whatever that we did wrong, or whatever we didn't do right enough, and give you the proper honor that you deserved.
don't break it up. Peter, real quick. Can I address?
They'll probably get a lot of You can all move this way. You can all move. Thank you so much. I appreciate your help. Just push a little bit in, but just keep like a roll here so we can push it in. Okay? Alright. You gonna back up a little? Take the shovel with you. Take the shovel with you. We gotta move from the rest by hand. We'll do the rest by hand. We can come in for concluding prayers.
El Molei Rachamim Shochein Bamromim Hamsei Menucha Nechona Al Kanfei HaShechina B'Ma'alos Kedoshim U'Torim Kizoar Haraki Yamazirim Es Nishmas Reb Yitzchak David Ben Reb Yaakov Shalach Le'olamo Ba'avur She'anachnu Mispalalim Be'ad Hazkaras Nishmaso Began Eden Tehei Menuchaso Lochein Bal Rachamim Yastireu B'Seiser Knafav L'Olamim V'Yitzror HaChayim Es Nishmaso Adonai hu nachalaso v'yanuach b'shalom mishkavo v'nomar amen. Normally, Tziduk Hadin, the acceptance of Hashem's judgment, is recited by the mourners themselves. I stand as a representative of the lone mourner, Michael Sheyichya, and I'll say the Tziduk Hadin followed by the Kaddish. Hatzur tamim polo ki chol derchav mishpat elam menov ve'eno hol tzadik yashar hu hatzur tamim b'chol poal mi yomar lo matifal hashalit v'matu v'malo meis mechaya mori sh'ol ve'al hatzur tamim b'chol maasa mi yomar ilav matasa ha'omer ve'osa chesed chinam lo nosasa v'schus hanechad keseh hakshiva v'aseh tzadik b'chol derchav hatzur tamim erech ha'payim u'molei rachamim chamolna v'chusna ala vosu vanim ki l'cha adon haslichos v'rachamim Tzadik ato Adonai l'hamis u'l'hachayos asher b'yadcha pikton kol ruchos chalila l'cha zichronenu limchos v'yuna einecha barachamim alenu fikuchos ki l'cha Adonai rachamim baslichos Adam im ben shana yiyeh o elef shanim yichye ma yisron lo ki lo haya yiyeh baruch dayan ha'emes memis u'mechaya baruch hu ki emes dino u'mishotet hakol be'eno u'mishalem lo'adam cheshbono v'dino have'akol lishmo hodaya yitenu Yadanu Adonai ki tzedek mishpatecha titzdak b'dvarecha b'siska b'shavtecha ve'in lahar achar midas shavtecha tzadik ato Adonai v'yashar mishpatecha dayan emes shofet tzedek v'emes baruch dayan ha'emes shekol mishpatev tzedek v'emes nefesh kol chai b'yadecha tzedek mala'ah yimincha v'yadecha rachem al pleitas son yadecha v'somer l'malach haraf yadecha gedol ha'etz of Rav ha'alila Asher inecha fekuchos al kol darchei b'nei adam lases leish kedrachav v'chefrima alalov lahagid ki yashar Adonai tzriv lo avla sabo Adonai nasan v'Adonai lakach yihishem Adonai mevorach v'hu rachum yechaper avon v'lo yashchis v'hirba l'hashiv apo v'lo ye'er kol chamaso. Yiskadel v'yiskadei shmei rabba Galamadu hu asi litzchad tolach hayomesayo la sakal chaye olma l'nivne kartu Yerushalayim l'shachal hechalei begavo l'meh kar pulchana v'nuchra me'ara l'asava pulchana dishmayed l'asra v'yam lichut shavrichu v'malchus hevikare v'chayechon v'yamechon u'v'chaye d'chol beis Yisrael v'agalo v'zman kariv imru amen Yehei shmei rabba mivarach l'olam lo me'ol maya yisparach v'yishtabach v'yispoar v'yisroman v'yisnasei V'yishadar v'yisalev v'yishalol Shmei dekut shah brichu Le'ela min kol birchasa v'shirasa Tishbchasa v'nechamasa Damirom b'yolama v'imru amen Yehei shalom rabba min shemaya V'chayim aleinu V'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen Avseh shalom ramav Hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
This concludes the funeral here. We all may return to our cars.